Straw Hut Media.
Hello, world, and welcome to another episode of Release Date Rewind, a podcast that's now 5 years old, celebrating milestone anniversaries in film. Boy, do I have a show for you today, full of sparkle and glamour and fashion and boobs. Lots of boobs. We're getting real feminine, darlin. I'm your host, Mark J. Parker, a film lover and filmmaker, and thank you for listening to this on your favorite podcast app, thanks to the Straw Hut Media Network, or maybe you're listening on the You Run Podcast Network, or maybe you're watching on YouTube to see the NC-17 version. Yeah, right. No, it's okay. Don't run. Don't be scared. Keep watching. You're safe. Sit back down. It's a double feature episode, and we have two very memorable, very queer, very sassy movies to celebrate from September 1995 for their Pearl anniversary. To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, and Showgirls. That's right, girl power. So grab your friends and your frenemies, wear your drag and your Versayce, and if you'd like to watch or rewatch these movies, To Wong Foo is sadly not streaming in the US currently with a subscription, but you can totally rent it or borrow it from your library or find it somewhere. And Showgirls is currently on HBO Max in all of its high-def glory.
Showgirls. Absolutely frightening.
All right, little Latin boys and cheetahs. Put down the doggy chow and hop in my 1967 Cadillac DeVille convertible because it's time to rewind.
There she is.
Look at her. Oh,
and
yes.
my favorite part is that the cheetah's nails are done too.
Yes, her nails. Oh my God, I love it.
We'll talk about that. This is the animal versus the divine. The binary in.
Are you putting it on the candle right now? Oh wow!
Yeah,
I'm glad I'm recording
making.
this. Look at this. Professor Andy is applying Nomi to her candle.
She's
now, what
an
is
artisan.
Is there a scent on this candle, or are they
not
unscented?
on these? No, they're unscented. They just remind me of when I would go to like Catholic service, and there'd just be like this wall of people you could pray to, and it's like you had one thing, and it was like it was very like select your character, And I was like, who's gonna help me fight off the bullies? You know what I mean? I'd be like, pray to her. Didn't work. But anyway, here she is. So in the I'm calling them idol worship is the candle line. Yes. Exactly.
Wow.
She is the star, of course.
Oh, she is the star, and what a star she is. Oh my gosh. All right, everybody, we have begun. We are recording. Professor Andy is in the house. You might know him, you might not. This is going to be I can tell already, I already knew before you came on, Andy, that this was going to be a very fun chat, a very queer and colorful chat. Everybody, welcome Andy Might to the show. Dr. Andy is in the house. How's it going, Andy? This is so fun. You are a film professor. You are a film lover. Mm-hmm. How did you get into, so you went to grad school. How did you start teaching film?
Yeah, I mean, I feel fortunate to be in doing something that I love. It takes a long time to get here. I just got tenure last year, so newly associate professor of film. I started as a literature guy. Well, I should say I started as a journalist,
cool.
and I was writing mostly entertainment beat kind of stuff. And then my newspaper folded, and I went back to grad school. Thought I was going to be a lit scholar who studied like Southern Gothic writing. I really loved like Flannery O'Connor and Shirley Jackson. I was going to write about her, The Haunting of Hill House. And then I took a great film class, and it really changed my perspective. I was like, and that teacher actually pulled me aside and said, you're better at writing about film than you are about literature, which is good advice. Like, I'm actually a really slow reader, honestly. And the better I understand like my ADHD as an adult, that makes perfect sense. But it's like as I'm able to hyper focus. So I teach film in the English department at CU Denver, and so I would say that I study mythologies, and that's the kind of big and thinking about genre as a type of mythology or a story that we tell over and over again as a way to work through tensions and explain the world and that sort of thing. And So yeah, so that's my draw to film, and I write about evil children in the horror genre. That was kind of my start.
Wow.
My book is that.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's basically looks at the types of evil children. I said they seem pretty queer,
Oh,
actually, right? But you
wow.
like evil
Yeah, that's
children are
interesting.
problems of gender, right? Evil
Right.
boys are withdrawn, evil girls are bodies out of control. So it's about like tamping down,
Wow.
not just different types of youth, but youth revolt in general. And
Yeah.
so right, and so that's why it spikes during the Vietnam War, and we get these sorts of films.
Wow. Oh my,
Yeah.
I'm learning so much already. We are having a thank you, Andy, for being here because this is a free class. You're basically going to give lots of education to us all. What is the name of your book and when did it come out?
Mhm.
When was it
Let's see,
published?
2015 it came
Okay.
out.
10
So it
years
was
ago.
basically it was
Nice.
my PhD dissertation. I went to University of Texas at Austin. That's where I had really great like a film program training,
Oh yeah,
and
Austin's a great film scene, of course. So that's
absolutely.
great. Yeah.
Absolutely. And really good for the kind of work that I want to do, which is I'm more interested in reception. So I'm rarely asking, what did the director intend? That's not really an interesting question to me. I'm really interested in what do audiences do with things, right? And
Wow.
I'm interested in the cultural afterlife of films and how films have become cult objects, how two different people of different backgrounds can go see the same movie but have a totally different experience.
Yeah.
That's and minority spectatorship and minority authorship. Those are the kinds of things I get really interested
Wow.
in.
Oh, that's so interesting, Andy. And yeah, that aligns with kind of why I do this show because,
Mm-hmm,
people love or hate all kinds of movies. What I might obsess over, you might be like, huh,
mm-hmm,
okay, right?
mm-hmm.
It doesn't really matter if it's award winning or not. It's
Yep.
how it's received.
Mm-hmm,
It's how it lasts the test of time. And,
mm-hmm,
maybe many of these movies, from the past, we end up loving more and more and more.
mm-hmm.
So I
Yep.
don't know what that is about our greater identities now of just like maybe we're longing for the past. Maybe we wish we
Mm.
were the age when we discovered these movies. I don't
Yeah.
know, right? I
That's
mean,
that's the engine of nostalgia.
right?
Nostalgia is Greek for to remember through pain. And it was used to describe the experiences of soldiers being away from their home during
Yeah.
war, and to like think back and then think back in a way that is about loss, right? As you
Yeah.
understand that you're right, we're all nostalgic for the things that we consumed during our childhood because the world seemed simpler then, right?
Wow.
But of course we were shielded from the complications of the world. So of
Of
course the
course.
world seems simpler, when
Right.
we were a
Yes.
child, and so we're always sort of longing for that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I taught a class on cult movies,
I
and
love it. I
these
wish I
exact.
took it. Oh my, do you ever teach like classes not for like students, like just for like a class just for the community in Denver or anything?
I do. So here in Denver, my company Rainbow Cults, we do immersive cinema events, and so we just did a tribute to Clueless, and they can be from like a backyard movie night, which is how they started in my house.
Yeah.
I started during COVID. I started doing movie nights weekly in my backyard. Films that I've seen at like film festivals or kind of off the radar that I thought deserved more attention,
Yeah.
and that became a big thing. And then so we moved it to a movie theater and started incorporating drag performers as the characters before the films,
Oh,
and then we started doing. I did a Fifth Element show at Meow Wolf, which is this immersive art exhibit here in Denver, and
oh,
we
cool.
digitally projected the film on all the walls, and would put people inside of a space nebula during certain
Oh
scenes.
my God, what?
Um,
There's some real
yeah,
work involved in these events. It's not
yeah,
just like you're like,
absolutely.
"Hey, come on over, we're gonna press
Oh no,
play." Like, you're
they've
really curating
they've gotten
special events.
unreal. Yeah, absolutely. And we did a tribute to Labyrinth where I had puppetry and sort of Jim Henson creatures for the
Oh,
audience to interact with. Yeah, and so this is where I'm moving in my career now.
mm,
Is whereas my book, like The Revolting Child, was kind of about like what do queer people see
mhm,
when they see a child punished on screen, right, for being different. Um, do they see the same movie as their straight counterparts, or
yeah,
given that something uniquely about queer experience is you fear that those who love you the most will not love you anymore if they learn about who you are, right? And that's an
mm,
intrinsic queer experience because we are born aliens into our own home often.
mm.
And a lot of this sort of like change during adolescence is with The Exorcist is just 2 hours about gay conversion therapy working.
Wow,
Um,
yep, mhm,
right.
wow.
And so those are the kind of questions. So it's like, so I think the trick when studying spectatorship, and this is what I try and do with my students, is like, can you understand where the film is pushing you? And then also like, what is your reaction? And what does that gap between those two things say, right?
Mm,
About spectatorship. So when Marika McNeil vomits on a priest in The Exorcist, I understand that I'm supposed to be revolted, but I think it's fucking hilarious,
right,
right?
right.
And so, what parts of my identity are allowing for that counter read?
Absolutely. That is so interesting. Yeah, because we already know, especially with that classic movie, many
Mm-hmm.
people found that revolting, and many people
Uh-huh.
are like hooting and hollering and feeling wild and loving it, you
Yep.
know? So
Yep.
yeah.
Attendance at Catholic Mass shot through the roof after that film came out,
And you
right?
so you grew up Catholic, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, me too,
Mm-hmm.
although I
Absolutely.
remember literally, I remember nothing. I had to go to CCD, I went to, like, Sunday school,
Yeah.
got confirmed, all that shit,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, Andy, I don't remember a thing. I remember how much I absolutely hated going to that weekly class, and I remember waiting when I was, like, in, I guess, elementary school, middle school, waiting on Sundays at the store next to the church, looking at comic books of Catwoman and Fangoria, waiting for my mom to pick me up. I remember those moments very well, but anything before that, I just remember
Yeah.
like, yeah, we had to read the Bible and I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, maybe color something, right? So,
Right.
what's your how are you with Catholicism now? You still, I assume you're not involved
No,
anymore, right? Yeah.
no, I stopped living in Santa Claus as well. No, I mean, my feeling is that it is part of me. You know, it's really interesting is that if you go somewhere and you hear someone say, I don't know, may the Lord be with you, it's like, I'm also with
Oh,
you. Like I have
oh,
this, but I have this sort of like ingrained like reflex, right? It's like the power of brainwashing in a way. And so, yeah, my relationship to it now is like, how can I queer it? How can I make it meaningful to me? And
yeah.
so, yeah, so that's why I started creating these candle
Yeah,
designs.
can you I know
Like,
you were showing me before we
yeah.
recorded, but if you wanna show a
So
few.
here's Cher,
Oh
the
my
virgin who
god.
can't drive.
Oh my god, I love it. Wow,
She's totally bugging.
she is
Um,
beautiful.
and then her counterpart Dion is based on the Hunchback of basically Esmeralda from the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So we put the
Wow.
skull cap daisies in there. So she's patron saint of the hymenally challenged.
Oh my
We
god,
have
this is
let's
so
see,
amazing.
Dorothy,
Oh, there she is.
classic as the fool, kind of like beginning her Technicolor
Oh, it's
journey.
beautiful.
Um,
So you were saying you
yeah,
work with an artist on these
hmm
designs. How does
yeah,
it work, Andy, like, with these
yeah.
amazing candles? Like, do you just say, like, "I have this vision of Dorothy walking on a Technicolor rainbow," or
Yeah.
like.
So basically, I start with like some sort of like iconic religious image. Let's say like yeah, the Virgin Mary, and
Yep,
then I send the artist the image of Cher that I want, and I was like mash them to it. And my rule is they have to be instantly recognizable as both upon first sight. And so,
smart.
I mean, and that's actually what I would argue is queer art
Mm,
is when you queer art is fanfic essentially, right?
uh-huh.
When things are not made for you, you write yourself into them.
Mhm.
And so queer people grow up doing cross gender identifications. Like we scavenge, we do
Yeah,
what we
we
have
can
to with what
pull
we
the
have.
best bits
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
now Frankenstein them into something so
totally.
perfectly, right? Yeah.
Totally. Right,
Mhm.
right. And so the queer art is collage work
Mm.
essentially. And so that's how I think of like the mashup is like here's the Frankenfurter design is
Oh,
like
yeah. Let's see a close up.
there we go. So
Oh,
it's Christ descending that I
yeah.
remember from Catholic school, but it's also Frankenfurter. Whoopi is the
Oh,
Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de
Mr.
Janeiro.
Yeah, Mary
Yeah.
Clarence. Oh my
hmm
gosh.
there's Megan if she was a member of ACT UP.
Oh,
Because I think like Megan for me is like the big sister you wish would have protected you from your bullies.
yes.
It's a really fascinating camp film as well because it cultivates in you a desire to see children punished,
Mm,
by the monster. We want it, right?
yeah,
And that's kind of like an interesting hallmark of queer viewing too. Is like over identification with the villain, really common, especially when
totally.
you especially when you queer code the villains like Disney does.
Yes. So, Andy, what are you teaching right now? Can you tell us? Are you teaching a
Yeah,
class at school currently?
totally. Yeah, so we have a rotation of courses. I'm up to teach international cinema, which I do
Cool.
the history of Japanese cinema,
Wow.
and so we talked about this a little bit. I'm piloting something in that class of using and custom mod ChatGPT that has all of their course readings and a history of Japan and my lectures and notes and everything, and then I ask them just have a conversation with it. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, and it really helps them. One of their assignments is to create a film that could have existed
Oh,
in Japan in 1942, like if it was a lost film.
wow.
And then the other course I'm teaching, same way with like a ChatGPT module, is time travel in literature and film. Um,
Interesting. Yeah.
so
Okay.
we did Run Lola Run. I
Mm.
think 2 weeks ago we are looking at this independent film called The Endless today.
You must have watched so many movies.
Yes, but it doesn't mean
Yes.
I remember them. Like I'll go up to watch a movie and I'll be like, I think I've seen this before, very often.
Yeah. We'll be right back.
She's dazzling, she's exciting, and she's what Las Vegas is all about.
It's so interesting, like why people go to the movies. I think this is kind of interesting for your podcast because it's like I usually go to the movies because I want to see something I've never seen before. Like I want to
Mm.
be challenged, and I think the worst crime a film can commit is to make me forget I saw it.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, but a lot of people go to the movies for the exact opposite. They go for predictability and comfort,
Yeah.
which
Mhm.
is like I think this question of nostalgia and replayability
Mhm.
lends towards probably a lot of discussions of like comfort, and I remember where it was when I first
Absolutely.
encountered this, and
And
then
that's why, like, those stories that we've seen before are doing so well in theater, like, on stage,
hmm
live performance, you know, like,
totally.
the original plays and musicals are always a tough sell, but especially I was actually just reading an article just this morning, like, they're tougher to sell than ever because,
Mm.
typically live theater tickets are more expensive than a movie ticket, although movie tickets are not cheap, right? I don't know what they are in Denver, but here in New England, I mean, $18 in
Yeah,
New Hampshire? What?
right.
I left New
Well,
York for a reason, right?
and we've collapsed the window between you could watch it at home or you
Of
only can
course.
only see it in theaters, and so I think a lot of people are saying like, is that worth my time?
Yeah.
Or I could wait
I could just
three
wait a
months.
couple yeah. Mhm.
Even
Yep.
and probably 3 months is even long. I mean, you
Oh,
can do
yeah. 1 month.
simultaneous release, right?
Mhm.
And so it's the film industry's own fault, really,
Yeah.
for their response to COVID was to collapse the release window
Yeah.
between theatrical and home release. So now I would argue that the distinction between film and television isn't the medium itself. It used to be. It used to be
Yeah.
commercial interruption, right? Like
Right.
weekly release of narrative, but that's not true anymore.
Mhm.
So the difference between film and television now is television is anything you watch in your home,
Mhm. True.
usually privately, and film is a communal experience.
That's interesting.
And so that's what I'm trying to do with Rainbow Cult, is to bring the communal, the liveness back to
Mhm.
movies. And so you can watch Clueless anytime you want to, but you're only going to see it in this venue with this crowd where you're encouraged to quote back and sing
Mhm.
along, and with often drag performers shadow casting the film. I like to say that part of what we do is like Rocky Horror, but for other movies.
Yeah.
So we've had like a cheerleading troupe in the movie theater for Bring It On, and but I'm a cheerleader.
Oh.
We've done like prop stuff, and we did a tribute to Clue in a
Oh.
haunted mansion, which is a lot of
Wow!
fun.
Okay,
Yeah.
walk me through that because this is
Hmm.
so fascinating, and then the next time
Yeah.
I'm going to Denver, I have to go to one of these
Please.
events. So
Yeah.
so Clue in this mansion,
Hmm.
so, like,
Yeah.
you had to
So
reach
I
out to the people that run the mansion or own it or
Oh yeah.
something,
Oh yeah.
right?
We rented it for the evening, and so downstairs in the kind of like the kind of renovated area, we would I hired 6 actors to play the characters from the film,
Oh my
and there
god.
was a murder that happened, and so we're kind of like a dinner murder mystery party,
Yeah.
and then we went upstairs and watched the film together, and they shadow cast part of it, like they would run around,
Oh my god.
during
Wow.
the chase sequences.
And there had to be
Yeah.
some sort of rehearsal for them, I assume, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
so, like,
This
this
isn't
is
yeah, I'll shout out Audacious Theater here in Denver. They are a really great immersive
oh,
theater group. So it was a group of improv actors actors.
Wow, you're making me want to move to Denver.
It
Okay,
was
this is
great.
good to
And
know.
our reveal was so we had a drag performer as Mrs. White, and then she went into Ariana's Dangerous Woman as her drag number, and
Oh,
so it
wow.
was a lot of fun. We'd like to have something that's like a little bit of a surprise, you
Yeah,
know.
smart.
Um, but yeah, so I've been doing these movie events now for like 5 years.
That is so cool, and it sounds like a lot of work. You must have a team,
It
I
is.
assume, to help you or
No,
ish?
it's ish. Yeah, definitely. I have people at the house. We're
Yeah.
kind of mostly volunteer run.
Yeah.
So but scrappy, but we have a lot of fun. We try and maintain that like backyard movie kind of aesthetic.
Mhm.
That anytime you come, it should feel like the church you wanted to go to. You know,
Oh
as
my
a
god,
kid.
amen to that. Yes,
Yeah.
that is a church, sign me up for that. I will be a
There's
member and I will
actually
donate.
Yeah, you know, we
Right?
spent a good 2 weeks in this cult movies class that I taught, talking
Yeah.
about the kind of similarities between religious church going and cult movie
Mhm.
attendance, right? And Rocky Horror Picture Show, I think, is like the best example of that. There
Yep.
is a call and response, right? There's a liturgy. There is you know, a sort of common language among parishioners,
Yep.
and it's idolatry towards just a different object, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, you're so right. That is so interesting. And it's funny because I feel like both of these movies we're talking about are kind
Mhm.
of cult movies, although
Yeah.
To Wong Foo was number 1 at the box office for 2
Mhm.
weeks. So I mean, you
Mhm.
kinda can't be a cult movie if actually you were the biggest movie at the time, you know?
It's a
But
good
then
question,
it
right?
sort of faded, right? And now I
It
feel like
it's
less
part of at the
people talk
heart
about
of
it.
like right, well, like what is a cult movie? Can we
Yeah.
talk about Wicked as a cult movie?
Mm,
Can we talk about Titanic as a cult movie?
interesting.
Um, and so is it, and this typically the definition of a cult movie is an object that fails and a subcultural audience embraces it, right?
Mhm.
And often like rewrites it. And so we might say like a cult movie is an object that has this strong textual afterlife.
Mhm.
And that it and usually when I do my events, what I think of is like, what do queer people like to quote to one another, send memes back and forth? Those are
Mm,
the films that I want to do because it's
mhm.
an invitation to participate in the event, to quote along.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, it's almost cult movies now are almost less about how they did financially back when they first came out, and
Hmm.
it's more of like an actual, like, upkeep of it in the
Hmm.
vernacular, in, like you're
Hmm.
so right, in memes and quotes, because
Hmm.
like, Titanic, yeah, we know that was the biggest movie on planet Earth, I mean, in the
Right.
galaxy, made million right? But
Mhm.
yeah, there's still a niche group of us out there that still quote the movie or still remember certain things that the general
Mhm.
person out there is not quoting Titanic, right? So that's
Mhm.
interesting. Yeah, how it takes
Mhm.
on this other life that's just
Mhm.
now part of our own identities, our own
Mhm.
subculture or something, yeah?
And the subculture is the big part. I think
Mm,
it has to be we can call this like an interpretive community
mm,
is the subculture where you kind of like exchange lines and you know man this scene that scene.
yeah.
So yeah.
Wesley Snipes, he's been a killer and a commando. Patrick Swayze, he's been a heartthrob and a hero. But these tough guys are about to face the most physically challenging roles of their careers.
Let's give it to him, girls.
So let's go back 30 years ago, Andy, to September
Yes.
1995. This is what was happening when To Wong Foo came out in theaters, everybody. We'll start with To Wong Foo because that came out a little bit earlier than Showgirls, September 8th, 1995. Andy, I'm going to set the scene for us. This is what was going on. Feel free to shout out your thoughts. This is a little time
Mhm.
capsule, okay? On the news side, the O.J. Simpson trial was going on with the whole glove business. If it don't
Mhm.
fit, you can't acquit, whatever, right? That was all
Mhm.
over the headlines. Meanwhile,
Mhm.
another shocking guy, Howard Stern, shock jock, had
Mhm.
incurred a $1.7 million fine, I guess, for talking about all sorts of bad stuff. And so that was owed to the government. So those were some hot topics at the
Mhm.
time. On the
Interesting.
music side, Gangsta's Paradise
All
from
right.
Dangerous Minds,
Mhm.
love.
Mhm.
Kiss from a Rose,
Uh,
Fantasy by Mariah
mm,
Carey,
mm.
iconic, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Only Wanna Be With You from Hootie and the Blowfish, I believe. And As I Lay Me Down from Sophie B.
Yes,
Hawkins.
I
Oh,
maybe. Uh-huh. Got
right?
it.
I still,
Got it.
like that soundtrack, I remember
Mhm.
like I'm seeing like summer
Was
camp.
that
I'm just,
Sleepless in Seattle? Like, what was the
what?
soundtrack?
I don't know. know. I don't know, but I'm just
Mhm,
like envisioning that, like, especially summer of 95, hearing those,
mhm.
right? What do you think of when you hear that soundtrack of hits? Or do you think of your
You
younger
know,
self?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I in 1995, I'm a junior in high school, and I'm
Oh, wow.
pretending to like Pearl Jam, but I'm actually listening to Mariah Carey.
Oh,
Um, uh,
that's so funny.
this soundtrack on To Wong Foo is also
Oh
a
my
banger.
god. It's
Um,
such a banger. I love
mhm,
the opening song from Salt and
mhm,
Pepper.
mhm.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So
It's hot.
it's such a great like opening
Oh,
go to go to war kind of music. You know what I
ooh,
mean?
yeah, like
Um,
let's immediately bring everyone to this world, right?
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Mhm.
absolutely.
How does it start?
Yeah.
It says, "Where is the body?" Right?
Exactly.
I mean, wow, we are transported immediately, yes, and it's so funny
Yeah.
because 'cause we'll talk about Showgirls later, but
Mm,
Showgirls, that opening's different, and that was
mm,
starting, it's interesting because at this time in the mid-90s, not only did films really start looking beautiful, which
mm,
both of these movies are beautiful, but
mhm,
Showgirls is shot like, oh my god, 30 years later, I'm like, "This movie is
mm,
stunning with the lenses
mhm,
and everything," but
mm,
some cool movies started to ignore the opening credits, so we
mm.
have 2,
Interesting.
whereas To Wong Foo has that music and we're seeing every name on the screen. We're taking our time showing the makeup, right?
Uh-huh.
So it makes perfect sense for both movies.
Mm,
But I just thought that was interesting because then we see in more movies and still of course today, some don't even show the title of the movie, like
mhm,
we
mhm.
just get right to the story, no names. So
Yeah,
pretty
I mean,
interesting.
it's thinking really interesting if you think about like we might not talk about them, but both of these are musicals.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And so we talk about like in the 60s the musical dies because the
Mm,
soundtrack starts to emote for characters. So think of
mm,
like The Graduate.
mm.
And so we start to replace like that conceit of breaking on a song with the conceit, but we still have the same structure. So
Yeah.
Showgirls is a classic backstage musical,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And we still and in To Wong Fu too, we get the same sort of structure of the musical, which is sort of like interstitial narrative,
Yep.
break, spectacle,
Mhm.
and then kind of like back into narrative. We have in the musical, it's important that characters synchronize,
Yeah.
and that is kind of like alignment. Usually, romantic alignment is done through synchronization of dance. The
Mhm.
way that like Don in Singing in the Rain divorces himself from Cosmo synchronization and joins in synchronization with Kathy, right?
Oh
It's like
yeah.
that's how we represent courtship in the
Yes.
musical.
Yeah.
And so there's really fascinating things happening in both of these films about the musical. For To Wong Fu, it's musical as spectacle. For Showgirls, it's almost like musical as intimacy. It's really, really
Yeah.
fascinating.
Oh, that is so fascinating. Yeah, and with Tu Wong Fu, you're so right. The musical moments, both both on the soundtrack, but also the actual characters are like dancing and grooving a bit. It
Mhm,
happens during like those montages, or yeah, those like
mhm,
interstitial kind of like we're driving further along, or
mhm,
we're dressing up the ladies in town, right? Yes.
mhm,
Whereas Showgirls,
mhm,
the music is actually part of their work.
mhm.
Almost like Chicago that way or something. Like
Right,
you
right,
know.
absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah, but To Wong Foo, we have a mashup of a couple different genres. We have the road movie,
Yep.
obviously. We
Mhm.
have the musical, and then we have a kind of like social justice undertone
Oh,
to
definitely. Mhm.
the film as well. So it's a really kind of fascinating mix of those. And every time you hybridize genres, you're taking, well, this is what the road movie believes, this is what the musical believes, this is what
Yeah.
the coming of age film believes, and all of those things get kind of meshed together, which is
Absolutely.
what I really find interesting
Yes,
about
and that's
how
gotta be
these.
tough to braid all those strands
Mhm,
together, but it works so well.
mm,
It's a little tonally both of these movies are a little tonally all over the place, Showgirls
mhm,
especially. To Wong
yeah,
Foo, it blends much better, but it's still, we have some real dark stuff, we have some very fun stuff.
mhm,
So yeah, because of all those strands, it can feel a little bit of, like, "Whoa, where are we now?" When now we're getting real
mhm,
heavy, but it's
mhm,
still I think it makes the movie just that much more special and emotional and
right.
really wholesome, right?
Oh, absolutely. Which is surprising because one of the kind of genres it's riffing on is the road movie, which is really about white men being able to go anywhere they want to and dominating space. So about like the old like Dean Martin films were so much about that. Like I'm going to arrive in a space and I'm going to control it, right? And then that's the musical part, is that the world conforms to me, right?
Yeah.
If I'm in love, the world is in love, right? But it's so much about like it's Western expansionism, kind of in miniature in the road movie, and so it takes that American identity of the rebel, it combines with it the idea of Western expansion and sort of like colonizing spaces, and it flips it on its head. These are queer, non-binary people moving through a Western expansion and healing damaged and divided communities, and
Yes.
releasing repression.
Meet Vita Bohème,
Enchanté. Why are you crying? Maybe she just found out Menudo broke up.
Miss Noxzema Jackson,
Jesse's daughter.
and their protege, Chichi Rodriguez.
I'm the Latino Marilyn Monroe. I got more legs than a bucket of chicken.
Interesting to call them non-binary, because you're right. I mean, and how Stockard Channing, I mean, who's so good in this movie, how she even says, I don't really think of you as a woman or a man, I think of you as an angel. Like, wow, what a line.
Which non-binary.
Yes.
Angels are non-binary.
Right? Like, so that is so yeah, they are like angels, and therefore they are healers. And I thought that was so interesting, because, and they're healing themselves in this process, but they're healing, Stockard's character, a lot of the women, and most of the men too. They're making it cool to do these things and to be cool to each other. It's so good. Oh my God, I get emotional. But okay,
but it's a greater trope, right? We see it in Adventures Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. We see it in Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. We see it
That's
in
true.
David in Schitt's Creek, runs an apothecary in this space. And so this trope of queer people, marginal people going in and healing divided nations, like in a time when that's needed. And I love that context you said at the beginning of this, the O.J. Simpson trial, talk about a nation divided, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it's really kind of like fascinating how this trope wants to provide remedy to that division.
That's interesting. Absolutely.
They're essentially moving through Trump's America at great risk, and healing them.
Yeah.
Which I think is just a remarkable film to be thinking about now.
I know. Isn't it wild how, as I'm rewatching it, I saw it when I was a kid. I probably saw it once it came to maybe TV or video, maybe in 96, a few months later or something, right? But I haven't watched this in quite a while. And first of all, it was just amazing that like some moments still burned in my brain, just like so memorable. But a lot of it, I was like, oh yeah, she's in this, or he's in. And then watching now in 2025 in the America we live in, I'm like, whoa, this is crazy how so many of these scenes could be filmed today, and it still makes absolute sense. Like, right? Like that was actually very heavy and kind of terrifying, that it's like, is this 1995 or is it 2025? Because there's like no difference, right?
So if you're talking about like the assault by the police officer, right? Like this is a PG-13 film. Like this is where I think we don't really give enough credit to this film for doing some really heavy lifting within that restriction of a PG-13, a drag queen film. Like, honestly, I don't think would be PG-13 today. Maybe, I don't know, depending on what state. Certainly not in Texas. It'd have a warning label on it. And so I just find that, like, to give it credit for that, this film and Birdcage around the same time are just doing really heavy lifting within a really restrictive rating system.
Absolutely. And really brought the straights, to the theater. I mean, these are, especially with the Birdcage, two very queer movies, obviously, with big stars doing amazing work. And it really unified everyone, at least, for a time at the movies, right? Which is very special.
I mean,
right?
People dog this film sometimes for its casting, but let's say John Leguizamo is incredible.
And I
He
didn't
just
know until the other day, Douglas Carter Bean, the writer, wrote the
mm,
role for John Leguizamo. I didn't know that.
mm,
That's so
yeah, I
interesting,
mean,
right?
he just disappears inside this role,
Oh, yeah.
and and I adore Patrick Swayze. I think
Yeah.
that is another embodied role. They say that he got the role because he dressed in drag and walked around the block and nobody clocked
Isn't
him.
that
I think
amazing?
that's the story.
Uh-huh.
But then, and then Wesley Snipes too. It's like it was so
Wesley is
accessible.
like, because Wesley, I don't really follow a lot of his work. I mean, the hits, sure, but like Wesley
Sure,
Snipes for me, but wow, I forgot Wesley is so committed and
he's
so
funny.
funny, right?
Yeah,
Noxema's
absolutely.
lines are, oh my gosh, and I just love that Wesley apparently was one of the first people to say yes. Like, you would
Mm,
just think at that time, and an action star like him,
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
and especially what we hear, from within the Black community, there seems to be, I've
Mhm,
heard, a little bit of animosity towards queer people within that community,
mhm.
So
It's interesting because there's this sort of trope of black male comedians using fat suits to do
mm,
drag, but there's something about this sort of like embodied, and we're not going to make a joke out of this
yeah.
with the Wesley Snipes role that is really powerful.
Yes, amen to that. You're so right. That's what it is. Exactly.
Hmm.
Real quick, Andy, in your
Yeah.
own words, I ask every guest, in your own
Mm,
words, it does not need to be long. If for anyone out there who's listening who hasn't seen this amazing movie,
mm.
what is To Wong Foo about? Do you want to give a little log line, a little brief synopsis?
Yeah. So a trio of drag queens hit the road on their way to a drag competition, and get had to stop at a small town where they find the humanity and heal the town and bring them together before they fly off to
Yes.
their goal.
Which is
Very,
so sad because some of them want to stay. They're,
yeah,
I think, I forget, is it Patrick Swayze? No, I think it's John Leguizamo says like, "Oh, I wish
yeah,
I could
he's
stay."
teaching,
Somewhat, right?
right?
Peachy, but yeah, it's so beautiful. They can only be there for a weekend, but in that weekend,
Mm,
I mean, the world is more colorful now, in this
mm.
town. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely.
beautiful.
Yeah, and so there's this, I think one of the tropes it's kind of building on is this sort of fairy godmother idea,
Mhm.
right? And we have a kind of like Bippity Boppity Boo, that's the fashion sequence where they get the girls of the town and do a kind of fashion show.
So fun.
Classic fairy godmother kind
Oh,
of
you're
stuff.
so right. Yes, and it works
I
so
really,
well.
yeah, so I really love that about that.
Oh yeah.
It's such a great film that way.
Oh yeah.
Um, Infinitely quotable.
Oh
I
yeah.
wanted to show you. So when we did our To Wong Foo tribute event, I had an artist make the girls from To Wong Foo
Wow.
as like a parody of Washington crossing the Delaware.
Oh my God. Love it.
That was the vibe.
Oh
But I do think of them as pioneers. You know what I mean? I
yeah.
think that's one of the things when I go back to watch this film. It is lighthearted, so I think the comedy framing of it diminishes your fear of something happening. But I, as
Mhm.
a queer spectator, I'm almost conditioned to expect the violence. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And like I even in experiences where like I'm enjoying myself, it's a gay romance film. Call Me by Your Name. My in the back of my head is going, when's the gay bashing gonna happen?
oh
Right?
God. Yeah.
When is the like rejection by the parents gonna happen? And so
Right.
what I like about this film is that it it created stakes, but it was escapist. It let me have hope for my ability to go places and not get hate crimed, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
to have conversations with people that I disagree with, and and not to do that with fear.
Yeah.
I feel that way at the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah. We don't
We're
really know
talking about.
exactly like how this conversation could go when you're talking to someone,
Mhm,
like people are doing all sorts of crazy things nowadays, right? So it is such a nice cozy blanket to watch something like this that
yeah.
may be, yeah, it's a little unrealistic, right? It's a little bit
Uh-huh.
of a fantasy where like no one in town seems to really suspect that they're actually not women, like
Right.
everyone just believes like, oh wow, you're a big lady, like
Uh,
so, it's almost kind of like if I know this is a real downer, but it's almost like as if Boys Don't Cry like ended happily. You know what I mean? Like where these like straight rugged roughnecks like actually,
mhm,
learned something and
mm,
everyone was at peace, right? So
yeah. So the need for those stories in which they're like, yeah, you can have happy, fulfilling lives, and people will accept you,
Right.
and and don't be afraid to leave your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know.
They were headed for Hollywood
Think of it as Easy Rider in dresses.
on a sacred mission.
Must take this message from Miss Newmar with us across the land.
I'm going to just talk a little bit about our main players and our creators of To Wong Foo, where they were in their careers, and then we'll nerd out about any more fun scenes or any fun lines you want to talk about. But so we mentioned writer Douglas Carter Bean. I forgot he wrote this because he's also a playwright, right? Which this feels very much like a play, a musical, right? Like it just feels, it's very contained, even though it's a road movie, you know, they're really in New York, and then there's the road, and then they're just in the town. So, I mean, it could easily be done on stage, right? But so he apparently, you might have seen this too. He apparently was inspired by an anti-gay propaganda film titled The Gay Agenda. And he had said there's a scene where they show drag queens going through a town, and the narrator is warning the viewers that these people will take over. And he thought, well, that would be fun. And it's funny because the cop, what's his name? Chris Penn, the cop that tries to, you know, assault Vida, he even says, like, you know, on the megaphone, I think he's like, you know, don't believe them, like they're gonna ruin your town, kick them out, you know. So right there, pulling stuff from real life, and that's what people are now saying today about especially trans folks, right? So
Absolutely.
it's just so weird how the mirrors are just up, you know, facing each other, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But the script got to Amblin, Steven Spielberg's company. Spielberg, I love that he loved it and wanted to push it along. I love that so much. And so it's interesting because British director, and she's now a politician. I'm going to butcher her name. Bibon Kidron. Do you know, is that how you say it?
Sounds right to me.
Something like that, right? Kidron. But now she's a politician. She's always been an advocate and doing really cool, interesting cultural things. So she had begged Spielberg to let her direct, and he accepted, which is pretty cool. Because again, we had, at least, you know, Leguizamo wasn't huge yet, but we had Swayze, Snipes, Stockard Channing. I mean, we had some big names for a lesser known director, you know, to take this on. So that's pretty cool, right?
Absolutely.
She had done some documentaries, some British films. Now the actors, like we said, Wesley Snipes, again, action star. He had just done Demolition Man, Drop Zone, Sugar Hill. So he is like tough star. Audiences come to know what a Wesley Snipes movie is until now, right? It is interesting because I feel like the lead is really Patrick Swayze, it's Vida, but Wesley Snipes gets first billing. So I always just think that's interesting being in the casting world. I'm like, okay, his agents must have really fought. The producer's like, I want to be number one. You know, would you agree? It's really Vida's the leader, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Right. Noxima definitely is like number two, and absolutely nothing wrong with that. She seems just kind of like the support, you know, to Vida. So I just think that's interesting. But speaking of Vida, we have Patrick Swayze, who, of course, you know, Ghost, Point Break, The Player, he was in Tall Tales. So another rugged, such a handsome guy coming out of the shower in the beginning. I like how that was smart. They're like, hey, you know Patrick Swayze, you know he's a babe, coming right out of the shower, seeing a little bit of skin. Oh, there goes the towel. But now this is a different version of Patrick, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
you know,
no, I love that.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then last but not least, Leguizamo, Carlito's Way, Super Mario Brothers he had just done, a Pyromaniac's Love Story. So people were getting to know him. You know, I was a big Super Mario Brothers fan. I've talked about that on the pod. Talk about camp, right?
Yes.
But yes, so he's like, you know, getting more and more popular, but this really helped him, I think, really get seen by many people, right? And then, of course, he went on to do Romeo and Juliet and lots of other amazing things.
I was going to say, it came out the year after?
That came out the year after, about a year after this. Yeah, Romeo and Juliet, when I feel like that's really when a lot of us were like, oh, yeah, like, wow, he is a star, right? And it's interesting, out of the three, I think all deserved all the noms, but yeah, Patrick and John got Golden Globe noms, at least. I don't think it ended up getting any other real noms. Maybe a GLAAD award I might have seen.
Probably.
But yeah, I feel like a movie like this that came out now with these stars, I feel like would be, it might not really last all the way to like the Oscars, but I do think if this was made today with stars of this stature, I feel like people would be chattering more about awards. You know what I mean? Just because it's so, maybe especially if straight men, you know, straight cis men are hired, you know, I just feel like
It's
we'd all
so
be like,
brave.
"Ooh, it's so brave," and like, "Wow, I didn't even
Mhm.
recognize them," and like, "Look at their walk," like, "Oh, they're
Yeah.
so funny," whereas back
Mhm.
then, I'm sure that was still happening, but it was still kind of like, I don't know, a little under the radar-ish, you know?
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
sure outlets were like, "Wow, like these manly men are doing this movie? Let's see," you know? So,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I'm curious to see what who was up. Okay, so Leaving Las Vegas, Nicolas Cage won. Oh, we were in 1995.
Ah. Oh,
Um,
yeah, was that
Tom
94?
Hanks. So yeah,
For
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump. Yep,
Yeah.
mhm. Yep.
Um,
Which, of course,
curious.
iconic. He's great, but
Yeah,
a
I'm
little
curious
safe.
who else was nominated.
Yeah, that is a good question. Whatever, that ultimately just tells you awards kind of are meaningless, right? Like, yes, they're
True.
important at the time and they help get further decisions made, but in 30 years later, right? Who needs an award
I
when you have such a great
I
movie,
teach film and I never watch the awards show. I just read
right?
about it afterwards. They're
Oh,
so
that's so
boring.
funny.
They're so
Yeah.
boring to
I
me.
still love them, but they are I think now it's sort of just like this weird, like, pomp and circumstance, kind of like ceremony that I
Yeah,
still kinda like. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and then
totally.
and then a week later, I'm like, "What one?" Right?
Can we talk though about the only thing I really hate about this movie
Oh, tell me.
is the title. I
Ah,
hate it. I hate it so much.
okay.
I don't know how it made it all the way to this stage.
Isn't that pretty wild?
And
But along the way, they had an unexpected stop.
You know what you career girls want? Careers? Your daddy's some sugar. Please, no. No! No! I can't believe this!
Please don't quote me, but I think this one is deceased.
A dead white policeman?
no studio was like, that is an unmarketable title. And
Apparently,
it
there was
conveys nothing
it
about the film.
it's
In
so
fact, it's
random.
confusing.
Oh, yes. It's so random, right? Like, what would you have called it instead? Would you have shortened it to, like, just "Thanks for everything"? I mean, that's pretty generic. Like, what would
No.
you just something completely
I
different?
mean, I would have given it a road movie sounding name, like
Mm,
Thelma and Louise, Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Like that
yes.
sounds like an adventure, you
Yeah.
know? Um,
Something like
so
about Middle America, like, something with America in it could have been interesting. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Queens in the Heartland. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, you know
Um,
what? It sounds and it's funny because, like we said, Douglas Carter Bean is a playwright, and I guess he was
mhm,
originally thinking this would be a play. It sounds like a play title. It sounds a little no
right.
offense, but I'm totally with you. It sounds a little pretentious, sounds a
Yes.
little like New York theater scene, like,
Come
"Ooh."
back to the five and dine, Jimmy
Yeah,
Dean. Right.
yeah,
So a little bit of
right.
that.
Something that's
Uh,
long, that's like, and that's why now it's just To Wong Foo, which still to this day, I don't really know who Wong Foo is other than just a fan, right? Did we ever find out
yeah.
who Wong Foo is?
Yeah,
Like, random.
and
That's
half the people don't know who Julie Newmar is until you, like, point out that she was a cat one of the
right.
cat women,
Yes, and one of the less
one of the
famous ones.
minor ones.
Yes,
Yeah,
right, mhm,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
and so, I mean, I like the journey spurned by something so subcultural because the film itself is so subcultural,
mhm,
and it begins by saying, "Here's an object that means nothing to most people, but it's something so special to me, and I'm
mm,
gonna make a pilgrimage of sorts,"
yeah,
right? And so it's different than the typical American road movie, where it is almost like a religious pilgrimage.
yeah,
I put it in the same category as like Little Miss Sunshine. I think works on this
mhm,
type of
so good,
engine.
mhm.
Yeah, and so we need to get to this thing, and we're going to have impediments along the way. You
Yeah, you're right, and actually, Little Miss Sunshine's a nice comparison because they 'cause they're on the way to, like, a contest, a pageant of
know?
sorts, right? And
Hmm.
then going through parts of the country or just areas that they normally wouldn't be in, right? And
Right.
then, yeah, the impediments come, absolutely, I like that.
Hmm.
Another great movie. When did you first see this? Did you see this when it first came out? Did you see it a little later? What are your memories of your first To Wong Foo watch? Do you remember?
Junior in high school,
Mm,
I was out to a few people, but I would have never allowed myself to be seen going to a gay movie. That would have
wow,
terrified me,
okay,
in this, like, small town in Ohio. So,
yeah,
yeah, and it's actually there's really interesting studies about that with queer spectators. So, for instance, like, Brokeback Mountain didn't do so well in theaters, but did really well in VHS. And
mm.
so the idea is, like, there's certain films which feel, vulnerable, like,
Mhm.
attending them, is vulnerable, critic Judith Main says that queer spectators are dialecticians, that we have when there's queer content on the screen, we have one eye on the screen and one eye on the audience,
God.
which is really
Wonky
interesting.
eyes. It's so true.
Mhm.
Oh God.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that because yeah, even though we've been saying that, times now are not all that different than times 30 years ago in this movie, right? But
Mhm.
yeah, when I go to the movies, I haven't really thought about that actually. I guess I'm kind of lucky that way where I
Mhm.
don't feel self-conscious, walking into certain movies,
Right.
you
And
know?
it was probably, like it was definitely paranoia on my part, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, of
I don't
course.
think
And
it was.
especially at that age when you're already
Yeah. I
so,
mean,
you know.
I wouldn't even go to I would go to a gay club in another city because I
Mhm.
was so afraid of being found out, you know what I
Oh
mean?
god, yeah.
Um,
So then
and so
did you just see this then at home on
I think
VHS?
so, I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah,
I
or
think when I
TV.
went away to college, I had this, like, I'm gonna consume all the queer things, you know?
Oh, totally.
Um,
Mhm.
and so I kind of embarked on my own educational journey, basically. I
Yeah.
started with the Celluloid Closet, which came
Mhm.
out a year after this film, and
Yeah.
just started to, like, work my way through all those films that they mentioned.
Wow, that's smart. Yeah, make a
Yeah,
little list.
yeah,
Interesting.
that was my education.
Now they're stranded in a strange land.
Well, ladies, welcome to Snydersville.
And you thought the Dust Bowl was over?
This is the presidential suite.
Must have been one of those bad presidents.
I remembered, Stockard Channing. Why can't I remember her character's name? I remembered her story and how bleak it
Mhm,
is, but wow, watching it again, I just wanted to give them a shout out. I mean, her and her husband,
mhm,
I think his name's Virgil. Ooh,
mhm.
it is dark and
Yeah,
awful, and, um, what's amazing is because I feel like a movie today, like, especially like a Netflix movie or something, might really kinda hit it over the head and, like, kinda, like, give us some, like, expository lines, but I
mhm,
really like how they don't it's not you know what's happening. He's
mhm,
throwing the pot of food, it's too spicy, like, with very little dialogue, actually, we can tell, like, "Oh, this is an awful situation for her to be in, she needs help,"
mhm,
right?
mhm.
And it really is so special, whereas our 3 girls are fighting, and, I have to say, they're getting pretty racist, like, Vida and Chi Chi, especially Vida, "Whoa,
Mhm.
girl, like, watch what you're saying," right? As
Right,
Noxima
right.
says, "Don't go there," like, "Oh, you went there," right? But as
Yeah,
they're fighting, Vida especially hears the fighting in the other room. So I think that's a really interesting comparison because that fighting is dangerous and dark. This fighting, even though it's hurtful, we
mhm.
know it's not that bad, right? And
Well, it's part of that queer tradition of reading, right?
right, of course.
Everything from Paris is Burning to Boys in the Band,
Mm,
one of the theories is this is how we toughen each other up
yeah,
for the real world,
yeah,
right?
it's
Is
true.
through that sort of, like, combative, and, like, "I'm gonna get you to, like, slap back," right?
Yes.
And
Especially
so
as they're trying to make Chi Chi the best drag queen she can be. So it's kind of one
uh
of their rules, right? To like, you got to take it like us, you
Right,
know? Yeah.
right. But I do think it's interesting. We should talk a little bit about, like, yes, Vita is sort of like the narrative center. I
Mhm,
think Chi-Chi is probably the heart of the
mhm,
film, and you have Noxima have this, like, interesting connection to the past.
mhm.
And so they fit into this, like, crone mother maiden archetype as well,
Interesting, yeah, yeah.
as they move through the space. I forgot where I was going with this exactly, but
I
but
love it.
but thinking about, like, a Black trans person and a Latinx trans person going into an all-white town, where I think this is the interesting part about that abuse cycle is that he hates spice, right? This is a
Mm,
town that is white and bland,
you're so
uh,
right.
right?
Mhm,
And what these queens bring in is
mhm.
spice
It's spice,
into, right?
and everyone wants spice except you, Virgil, so fuck off, right? Like,
Right,
you're so
right.
right. Maybe
Uh,
that's and also, oh my gosh, how funny! Because then a year later, the Spice Girls came out. But what if the movie
mm,
was just called, like, Spice or I don't know, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, something
Yeah,
like that actually would have
spice trade.
yeah, yeah,
That's
right?
what it's the opening of the spice trade,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Right?
But that almost is like a good alternate name, something with
Yeah,
that in it
totally.
because they're bringing the spice, there's the whole spice issue
Mhm,
with Stalker, so, yeah,
mhm,
I totally
mhm,
love that thought, absolutely, the town they all are craving spice, they're maybe just too comfortable or scared,
mhm.
or, honestly, and I don't say this in a mean way, just kinda dumb to notice that they need spice, that they actually are craving it. It's that
And
you
I
just
and I
get too
think
comfortable. right?
This film nicely like wants to, I think, crowbar like being dumb and just like being ignorant, right? They haven't
Mhm,
encountered, and this is where we see like this sort of like 90s
mhm.
visibility as progress sort of narrative that like if they just met some trans people, then they would change, right? And this is the whole idea of like you need to be out, we need to have visibility on TV, and
Yeah.
now I'm like I'm not sure like that
Mm.
I don't know like
Yeah.
I think if they're not meeting queer and people of color at this point, it's because they're choosing not to.
True that. Absolutely.
Like comparing this even to like Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is
Mm,
also about catalyzing straight people and
mhm,
releasing their repression. But Rocky Horror Picture Show, it's a gothic narrative, and so the normies go into this carnivalesque space, right, and are
mhm.
transformed. Whereas this is actually a little more compelling. They're traveling at great risk into these spaces and
Yeah.
catalyzing them.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. And I
It's queer people leaving their own bubble, right?
yes, yes. Oh, on a queer mission,
Yeah.
but in order to fulfill that queer mission and the ending, that
Uh-huh.
last scene is so much fun, and the great, like, version of "Girls Just Wanna Have Fun" is playing. Oh,
Mhm.
it's so sweet. It's so great. Um,
Mhm.
but, yes, so they're on a queer mission. It's just great a great journey that you have to go
Mhm.
through some
Mhm.
anti-queer places,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Everything from this town of Snydersville, but even shout out to Bala Cynwyd. I'm from Greater Philadelphia, so I completely forgot that this movie talks about Bala Cynwyd, Pennsylvania. I'm like,
Oh,
that is
wow.
so random. But,
That is random.
even so random. Oh my god.
Mhm.
Because it's such a normal it's like, okay, what up? So I feel like maybe Douglas Carter Bean or someone had to be from Bala Cynwyd to put that in. But,
Mhm.
yeah, or Vita's family, which is again, I mean, it's camp, but for mom to come
Mhm.
out and like glare, but they
Mhm.
all maybe not Noxema. She maybe is the only one I feel like I don't know much about her life before
Mhm.
the frame of this film, you know?
Mhm.
Chi-Chi, I feel like I know a little bit more about, or we at least
'Cause we
see
visit her home. Yeah.
yes,
Her childhood
yeah.
home.
Or yeah, so,
Yeah.
it's interesting to see all these
Noxima's
anti-queer places, right?
Mhm. Noxima's beats seem to be about, like, connecting with the sort of ancestors,
Yeah, mhm,
and the archivist, I would say, of
yeah.
the tribe,
You're so right.
essentially.
It's kinda like she's looked she her past is in the it's connected to older people and
Mhm,
like, the history of culture, not so much
mhm,
her history, which
mhm.
works, it's cool, but yeah, she's a little
Which
distant
is
that
which
way.
which also moves the film into another kind of interesting subgenre of queer cinema, which is like mentorship films.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mhm.
And I think that this is a really good example of like when your tribe is a chosen family, how do we carry on history? It's
Mhm.
kind of like an interesting
That's interesting.
question. Hmm.
Yeah. How do you uphold that when you're actively kind of, like, picking your family and leaving some
Hmm.
traditions behind? Yeah, that's interesting. I
Hmm.
love
And
Noxima's stuff with the old lady from a ton of things,
yeah,
Ghostbusters, yeah, so
totally.
cute. Mm.
Totally. And also by connecting with her, like the old lady is like, oh, there are other people, right? Who because the film marks her as very isolated,
Mhm.
and almost like Mrs. Havisham, like where she's just sort of stuck in the past.
Right.
And so you have this sort of like empathy
Yeah.
between those two characters.
Yeah, absolutely, well said.
Do you like my nails?
They may turn this town from drab to utterly fabulous.
Yeah, the whole cast is great. Such great familiar we have Blythe Danner, Beth Grant, Michael
Mhm.
Vartan, who then
Mhm.
ended up not being a bully in, like, anything that he did, but it's so
Right.
interesting to see him as this, like, young, awful guy, and again, I was scared for Chi-Chi when, like, the guys come out and they're circling
Mhm.
her, so, like, the movie definitely shows some real, scary, stressful moments, and then is
It's
able to just juggle it
interesting.
with, like, such light, wholesome
Mhm.
humor, so
It would be really interesting to see how straight people and gay people read that scene differently,
mm,
because I think the conceit of the film is that this is a comedy, no real violence is gonna happen to these main characters, and
right.
you're somewhat insulated by them, but I think as a queer spectator, you're like, "That could definitely happen," right?
Oh, yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah, and to me, that's why I kinda kept forgetting, like, "Oh, the these country bumpkins are so dumb. They don't really know that these are drag queens, right? They think they're cis women. So I kind of had to keep remembering that, because that scene in particular with Chi Chi and the guys circling her
felt
brings
like
me
it.
back to like Boys Don't Cry, where it's like they know something's different. So they want to explore and find it out for themselves, you know?
Right.
When it's still scary, I think they want to, I guess, possibly rape her, or you know, they just think she's a woman. I viewed it at first, in this first rewatch in a while, as like, oh, they think maybe she is a cis man or what, you know. I don't know, it really stressed me out. I was like, oh, thank God, you know, that nice guy picks her up. But see, he doesn't even know, he can't tell. So yeah, you kind of have to suspend your disbelief a little bit, because I
Yeah.
think really only Stockard Channing is the one. And I'll never forget, this was the movie, because I was a kid when this was out. I was, by the time I saw it, I might have been 10. This movie made me realize, oh yeah, men are the only people that have Adam's apples. Okay. Right. I never really
Interesting.
thought about that at that age, because it's like, whatever. But when she says Adam's apple, you know, I was like, oh, that's right. I remember like, yeah, that's really interesting, you know? So you learn something,
Now we're like,
right?
bitch, you can shave that away. I share your love for Sucker Channing. When I was younger, I was in the stage version of 6 Degrees of Separation,
Oh,
which is
fun.
another like amazing role of hers. And
Yes.
so I've
Oh,
had a
yeah.
lifelong love for her.
Oh, I
And
love
her,
that.
she's like a Elizabeth Taylor adjacent to me, you
Oh,
know, this
yeah.
sort of
Oh,
just
yeah.
brassy lady. I've always like loved that type.
Wesley Snipes,
Look, I'm sorry about the way the Civil War turns out.
Patrick Swayze,
I gather you like hitting ladies.
Some ladies need to get hit.
and John Leguizamo.
I gotta go. I got cramps.
Hey, Rewinders. I'm pausing this fabulous conversation with Dr. Andy to tell you about another great podcast also on the You Run Podcast Network. That is the Horror Nerd Experience, a show that focuses on, you guessed it, horror. All things horror, hosted by LK the Horror Nerd, a deaf, blind, non-binary trans woman who is a longtime horror content creator. Enjoy the screams and check them out after this episode. Now let's get back on the road and continue our colorful celebration here on Release Date Rewind. Before we go to Vegas to thrust it, here are cameos from my friends who also love these movies. Jordan Raymond and Costa K.
To Wong Foo, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
It's one of those pieces that indulges a kind of fantasy world that at the time we hadn't experienced. And it's not perfect, but it created like this genuine story about characters who are gentle and human and are just trying to transcend the world around them through their perception of and their interactions with it. It's just, pure, lovely camp.
Showgirls. Leave your inhibitions at the door.
Hi, my name is Costa from Bulgaria. I love Showgirls because it's a really, really bold movie. It really doesn't apologize for what it is and what it's trying to tackle. And as a choreographer, I'm obsessed with the dance sequences choreographed by Marguerite Derricks and just how full out everything is.
So what are you going to Vegas for? You gonna win?
I'm gonna dance.
Yeah, you've acted in things before, right? Have I maybe seen you in something? Yeah.
I've done a turn or two. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because I feel like I knew your face before I started like knowing you, you know? So yeah, you popped up somewhere for me.
I've done a couple of music videos. I was in a documentary for the Nightmare on Elm Street series called Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay, I donated to that, and okay, yes, I had the filmmakers from that on my old podcast, so maybe that's
Love
where I
them.
kind of knew your face. Yes,
That
okay.
I was a
Interesting.
talking head, and then they came to my classroom when we discussed the
Okay.
film, and so we had
That's
a nice
probably
little
how I
segment.
knew you. Yeah, okay,
That's
cool.
that's where a lot of people recognize me from. So that
That's
was
so
one of my
cool. What
little
a great
claims.
doc.
Amazing. It's at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes still. That's
Oh,
insane to me.
wow, I
Like
love that, yeah, great
yeah.
doc. I had the filmmakers and Mark Patton on my old show, they were great. Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone's a fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street series, this documentary, it could have been an easy like fan service documentary, but it's about so much more. It's about Hollywood in the '80s and AIDS paranoia, and so it's got a lot of heart to it. And I got to tour with Mark Patton when they released the documentary. So I was actually on, this will segue nicely, when I was on the road with Scream Queen. We were touring at the same time as You Don't Know Me, which is the Showgirls documentary.
Oh, that's right, which I still haven't seen. I need to see that.
Oh, you
Oh
would
my
love it.
gosh. Yeah.
Watch it after this conversation
Yeah.
because they do a really spectacular job of basically seeing what does this film offer to different types of people, right? People who read it as pure camp, people who read it as a lovable piece of trash, people who read it as a brilliant extension of Verhoeven's work, and so it kind of in that the documentary about The Shining, room
237, right? I think
237. It kind of goes down these different here's why this is a cult film, you know, and so I really recommend it.
Oh,
To
that's
anyone
so
who has
interesting.
a
Thank you
chance.
for reminding me about that. That
Uh-huh.
came out a few years ago, not too long ago, I think,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I was on my radar, and then, like anything, it's like, then
I
your
know.
list just keeps growing, and you're like, "What's out this week?"
Yeah,
Right?
I think 2019 is when we were touring, so it was
Cool. Yep.
during that year.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, I love it. See, okay, that now I love the connection because I'm like, I knew your face from somewhere else. There we go. Because I've been casting for a while, so I'm like, did he submit to something, or did I see him in something that's someone? Anyway, okay, enough of that.
These days I'm more of a writer. So
Yeah.
I actually wrote a show that premiered at Denver Fringe Festival
Love that.
here
Good for
and
you.
won Best Audience Award. And so we are restaging it in October. So
Nice.
it's Arkham Asylum. It's the villains of Batman, put them on trial, like Chicago style, and they
Oh, I gotta
each.
see it. Is it a short or is it like a full-length
So
play?
it's a full length play, yeah.
Nice. Oh, good
Each
for you.
each each of the villains I've rewritten their backstories, so it's a lot. Bane went to gay conversion camp. It's a lot of
Love
fun.
this. Oh, I love this so much. Did you have to do anything with rights to do this or no? Because it's sort of
Parody.
a parody, right? Exactly.
Right.
Hmm.
Is DC doing so great with their properties
Yeah,
anyway?
who cares? Whatever.
They
You're
need all the help
welcome.
they can get.
Yeah,
Yes,
you need some attention. Right? That's what
exactly.
I say too. Yeah, exactly. I just wrote a short, my second short play, and it's
Mm.
a parody, sort of. I mean, it's very loosely, but it's still pretty accurate, all about the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni drama, just because I
Oh,
find it so
fun.
stupidly interesting. So, anyway, yeah, we'll have to do a whole episode on playwriting. But okay,
Love that.
now everybody, we're
Yes.
just going a couple weeks later, still staying in September 1995. The glitz, the sparkles, the boobs, they're all coming. Look, you got to light that sucker up. There's Nomi. Saint Nomi is right here with us. We're going to talk Showgirls. What a wild movie. Andy, I can't believe I'm saying this to you, especially a film professor, a film guide, and I'm saying this on the show, but guys, can you believe I had seen clips of Showgirls, but I realized until last week I had never seen the movie
Ooh.
in full.
Oh,
Isn't that
interesting.
wild? Yeah. I had
Yeah.
seen shockingly the ending when she's beating up the guy. I had seen moments
Uh-huh.
probably on TV, Showgirl, right?
Right.
But never saw the full thing until a few days ago. So,
Ooh.
whew, wow. But okay, let me just set the scene real quick. So, we talked about, popular music, popular news at the time. These were some other things that were popular in September. Okay, everybody. Xena, talk about queer. Xena
Yeah.
Warrior Princess had just premiered a couple weeks prior,
Ooh.
as did the Drew Carey Show and Brotherly
Ooh.
Love with the Lawrence brothers. I was a big fan back in the day. They were all starting, right? So, sort of, pop culture stuff going on. Jennifer Love Hewitt just joined Party of Five season 2. She was like the it
Oh my
girl, of
God.
course, right? Other popular movies at this time, besides Showgirls and To Wong Foo, Dangerous Minds, we mentioned Gangsta's Paradise, Mortal
Mhm.
Kombat, a very popular movie within the queer community. I think that's very interesting.
Really?
I feel like a lot of queer people I know love Mortal Kombat.
It's 'cause
Hackers.
we all wanted to play Katana.
Yeah,
Um, with the
totally.
fangirl.
Right?
Mhm.
We have Hackers with Angelina Jolie, The Usual
Uh,
Suspects, and Seven. Seven came out the same day as
huh.
Showgirls. So, two
Interesting.
very interesting movies that are pretty mean. I have to say,
Mm.
Showgirls is dumb fun, but Showgirls
Mm,
is so it's like you can't take your eyes off of it, but
mm.
and it's a fun movie, but it's also just so hard. What a hard life. Everyone is so mean to each other, and then Seven, we know, is just so brutal. So,
Mhm.
we have the top 2 movies at this on this weekend, September 22nd, 95, were just kind of brutal movies. So here are where people were in their careers, and I'm going to throw it over to you, Andy. So Showgirls, it was written by Joe Esterhaus, I believe, something like that.
The Sultan of Sleaze of
Salt,
screenwriting.
you're sleazy McSleaze, exactly. He wrote Basic Instinct, Sliver, a personal guilty pleasure of mine. Jade, remember Jade? No one talks
Oh my
about
God,
Jade
with David
David
Caruso.
Caruso and Linda Fiorentino. Oh yeah, right. So he was having the time of his life in the early 90s. He actually, because of this movie, he was the highest paid screenwriter in Hollywood history. He made like, I think, at least 3 million plus just from Showgirls. And speaking of mean, maybe this makes a little bit of sense just because the dialogue, like, I guess it was real. Apparently he, talked to real showgirls, real Vegas people, and this is, dialogue that was happening. And it was the mid 90s and people were a little rough with each other, I guess. But he also wrote this during his divorce. So I'm like, ooh, okay, that explains why everyone's just so nasty to each other, right? So he's our writer. Directed by Paul Verhoeven, made Basic Instinct, Total Recall, RoboCop. So really knows his way around like a visual movie. That's why this movie looks almost too good than it needs to, right? I mean, it's beautiful. Like just the close-ups of Elizabeth Berkley. I'm like, oh my God, this movie is stunning, right? So he's our director. He had told the writer Joe that he had always loved big MGM musicals and wanted to make one. And this is what they ended up making. So this was their ode to MGM musicals, right? Yeah, they interviewed over 200 Vegas strippers and incorporated parts of their stories into the screenplay. So, real quick, let's talk about our leads. Just our top 3: Elizabeth Berkley, Nomi. Wow, we got lots to talk about with Nomi, but of course. Of course, at this time, she was most famous for Saved by the Bell. Can you show everyone your shirt that you're wearing and that you have? Yeah.
So this is part of our Saved by the Bell mashups with Showgirls. We have this one and this one.
I'm so excited.
I'm so scared.
Oh God, iconic. I love it so much. And the background, is very Saved by the Bell. So Andy is repping Nomi. Between the candles, between the merch, right? So she, of course, we know, was most famous for Saved by the Bell. And listen, 30 years later, I get it. Like, you're on this wholesome TV show. You're not really the lead girl on Saved by the Bell was kind of Tiffany Thiessen. I mean, they all were leads, but like she was sort of the babe, I guess. So of course, she'd want to do something daring. I feel like a lot of girls on TV in the 90s wanted to then be daring in something else and shake it up, right? She really,
she was kind of like the humorless feminist on the show. You know what I mean?
You're so right.
Doing something sleazy is gonna push the needle on that star image, which is just smart,
right? And I think I'm sure she thought maybe it was going to be a little different. Maybe it was going to come out a little different. So, we'll talk more about that. But then we have Gina Gershon, who is just, she scares me. Like she's so sexy and so intense that like. Anything I watch her and I'm immediately scared. I was an extra years ago, or maybe I was a stand-in years ago when I lived in New York. In between jobs, I would do like stand-in and extra work. And I worked on her show on HBO. I think it was called How to Make It in America. And just being near her, I was scared. I was like, oh, she's intense. She's just got such like a cool, sexy, like serious, like she just tells it to you straight. Like she makes it look easy, right? So she is so good in this movie. Her stares can just cut daggers, right? She was last in. This was an interesting time for her because she was on the rise. Like it's funny because
Bound is after this, right?
Bound is after, like a year after, which really put her on that kind of fun, sexy, sleazy journey that she was on, that she owned, But we forget that like she wasn't really a full-blown star yet. She had done some episodes of Melrose Place. She did a lot of TV. She was in The Player. She was and I think Nancy Sinatra in a TV movie of Sinatra right before this. So I mean, she was getting some meaty roles, but like it's just funny because Elizabeth Berkley kind of, sadly, her career took a downturn, and it seemed like Gina Gershon kind of was on the upslope because of Showgirls. So just interesting to see how these two women kind of had a different aftermath after this movie, right?
So, yeah, absolutely. There's, I don't know if this is a true quote, but there's something about where like everyone knew in the film knew that they were making camp except for Elizabeth Berkley.
Breaks my heart.
I think it's hilarious. It's one
Yeah.
of my great pleasures in this film is watching Elizabeth Berkley think she's doing like Shakespeare in the Park.
Right.
And
Yeah.
everyone else knows they're making a sleazy thing. But I mean, that's Paul Verhoeven. He loves to take
Mm.
the dumbest idea and let's make it high concept, you know?
Yeah, and let's, like,
Um,
really commit to, like, everything, every word needs
mhm,
right? It's so big.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
speaking of Shakespeare in the Park, I mean, yeah, Elizabeth Berkley is acting for the stage in this movie. It's like, "It's the camera, sweetie,
Mhm.
you can tone it down a hair." But, I mean, that's why the movie is what it is. I mean,
But, you know, people
Nomi
put that on her, but I feel like that's a
no,
directing note,
that's a
you know what I
directing note
mean?
for
And
sure.
so
Yeah.
I think Elizabeth Berkley could have skyrocketed her career if she'd sort of managed the fallout from this film better. Uh,
Mm,
I
mhm,
I think her whatever people felt of her, like, tacit embarrassment at this
mhm.
film was a huge mistake on her, like, PR.
Yeah.
And it took her a
It's
long time to come around, like, the Hollywood Bowl and to finally, like,
yes.
get the joke, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it really is a bummer because obviously this movie was influential enough to inspire a year, I think, later was Striptease with Demi Moore, which was a
Mhm,
big deal. Also,
mhm,
a big deal, at least buzz-wise. I don't know if that made because this movie didn't make its money back until home video. Talk about home video.
right,
It made
right.
its budget times a few times, right? So this movie definitely had a mark on Hollywood, but at the same time, it was so reviled at the time. And yeah, the actors, especially Elizabeth, were made to feel bad. So it's tough. I mean, her agent dropped her, like,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
really not cool. Actually,
insane,
like,
insane, that's insane to me that you
you
just
helped
did
her get it.
A Paul Verhoeven movie and you're gonna get dumped, like,
Right. Yeah.
I I think it was poor management of that. I think she
Yes.
got really bad advice,
Yeah.
about how to manage, like, this film afterwards.
There's a spot open in the chorus line. We're auditioning tomorrow morning. I think you should try out.
I got an audition.
But you know what? Like, if we look at like the response to this film, basically what you get is a bunch of people who just don't understand what camp is.
Yeah. That's true.
And so a lot of the criticism about this film is like, what a piece of trash. I can't believe
Mhm.
people take this seriously. And we're like, no, we're not taking it
No, yeah.
seriously.
Hello. Yeah.
That is the sheer pleasure of this film,
Yeah.
is that we're enjoying the trashiness of it.
The only thing to take seriously is talk about a left turn, which I remember seeing this younger, was the rape. Like, her good
Yeah.
friend, which also it comes at a very strange time in the movie. Like, we're
Yep.
wrapping things up, and now
Yep.
we have this new problem. You know, I mean, I have to say, I absolutely I know we're jumping around, but there is something the visual of Nomi kicking the shit out of this
Uh-huh.
singer guy who is
Right.
awful, and she's
Yeah.
topless, and I mean, that is like, "Whoa," like, now I feel like, "Oh, actually, we're watching a great movie." It's just it's just a whole different story. It's almost kinda like that could have been a really dark, badass,
Mhm.
memorable, gritty movie, but
Right.
that's in the last 10 minutes, you know what I
Well,
mean?
sure, and so this is the problem of, like, what you were talking about, like, the switching tones of this film
Yeah,
is, like, you've already sort of established, like, a show grammar, and then you're gonna drop a rape revenge, moment in there in a
yeah,
way that doesn't feel earned, you know what I
yeah,
mean? It is with, a character who's lovely, but we don't know much about her, so it
yeah,
feels like she's being used as a prop.
mhm,
It
yeah,
feels like we're refrigerating her basically to give motivation to Nomi's character,
that's
where
true.
it doesn't need. She has enough reason on her own, you know what I mean, to be a
Yeah,
badass. We don't have to take like one of the few actors of color and punish them in this brutal way,
right.
in order to mobilize the white plot.
That's so interesting. Yeah, and again, the cast is great. I mean, everyone's great in their roles. I mean, however you want to spin it. I mean, everyone's committed, right? But it is interesting that we only have, from what I can remember, like two, you know, bigger supporting people of color, and
Mhm.
they bend over backwards for Nomi. They are giving
Yeah,
her, they
yeah.
give, especially her friend, can't remember
Molly.
her name, Molly. I mean, when
Mhm.
they meet, like, Molly, what are you doing with this girl? Kick her to the
Right, you're like,
curb,
"Why are
right?
you friends?" Right,
Right?
right,
But, like,
absolutely.
they do everything for her, and her love interest, the guy, I mean, he is pining for her, and I'm like, "This girl is
Mhm.
awful to you," you know?
Yeah.
So it is kinda weird, you know, I'm sure it was sort of accidental to I think they probably were just like, let's get some people of color in this, but it's just weird how those people are so like you said, they're really only there to aid Nomi's journey, and we don't really know about them other than how they are around Nomi. Like it's a little icky, you know.
Yeah,
Sort of an
absolutely.
accident,
Yeah,
I guess.
there's a trope of the magical Negro,
Of course, yeah.
you know, who the legend of Bagger Vance that shows up and seems to
Right.
have no family and no goals of their own,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
Their
and
goal is
so,
for Nomi to work, right? That's
mhm,
their both of their goals, really. We know at least that
absolutely.
Molly's this great seamstress, you know, she gets the job, and the guy is a choreographer, but like it's kind of like, well, without Nomi, like would they still have work? Would they have
Mhm.
dream? It's a little weird, but
I
you
mean,
know,
people like say I give this film too much credit in terms of his references, but Paul Verhoeven is a heavily referential director.
oh,
Like if you've seen like The Ninth Man, he basically remakes his
oh,
own movie as Basic Instinct,
oh, that's
um,
interesting.
and so he, like Hitchcock, has this sort of echo chamber of referentiality. And I would argue that part of Molly and Nomi's relationship is it's a Douglas Sirk film. That's just Imitation of Life.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
their relationship feels very imitation of life, where they cohabitate. They feel like a married couple,
Mhm.
but you have that sort of thing where she's treating her black friend very much like her servant, right, or her
Mhm.
assistant. And so that sort of exploitation of labor. I don't feel like this film goes anywhere with it. I think if it is a reference, it's just sort of, or it's just coded into how Verhoeven tells stories about female friendships, which is
Mhm.
also a little fraught in the work of Verhoeven. There are
Mhm.
very few female bonds that aren't toxic in the work of Verhoeven.
That is
Um,
interesting, actually. You're right. Yeah.
so I think there's really something interesting. But if we go like mythology on this,
Oh, yeah.
I would put it is a backstage musical plot, so it's kind of like all about Eve turned on its
Mhm.
head a little bit.
A little bit of
But
42nd Street too. I was
yeah,
thinking of right,
absolutely.
with the
And so,
younger, newer girl, and yep.
totally. And what I say with my students is like the backstage musical plot is any ingenue. Here's an opportunity. The main actor can't fulfill their role. There's usually some sort of accident, and here's their big chance at it, right?
Yeah.
And there's usually this sort of coded romantic relationship between the director and the ingenue,
Right.
right? And so those are sort of dovetail often. But in a modern setting, the sports film is just the backstage musical, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
we
totally.
replace the director with the coach. The rookie is the ingenue. Fame
Yep.
still equals fame, or
Mhm.
to walk away from fame is the answer, which is the answer in Imitation of Life. That it's
Mm.
fame is not worth the cost to your romantic relationships, and
Yeah.
so you need to give up that dream and find other dreams.
That's
Is often
interesting.
the other lesson, right?
Yeah.
And
Huh.
so a Star is Born is the narrative, but A Star is Born is also Magic Mike. It's also Showgirls. It's also,
You're right. Yeah. It's funny
Rocky.
how yeah, these are all it's all
It's
the same
also
DNA. It's just
it's
little
also the
differences.
Devil Wears Prada,
Yeah.
right?
True. Mhm.
And what's interesting, I would put Devil Wears Prada and Showgirls probably in the same course to read them back to back, because I would
Interesting.
argue that mythologically they're both the trials of Hera,
Oh.
which is a story of a young maiden. There's one of Artemis who has to go to Hera. Hera says, like in this Herculean way, you have to complete these 11 tasks to prove yourself. And at the end, Artemis walks away.
Oh,
Uh,
that's so interesting. I don't know it well enough, but I love Greek mythology. So you are speaking my
oh,
language. Oh my god.
just
Wow.
wait. And so you could say that this is okay. Maybe that's a thing, but like think about the plot of Showgirls, which is about she starts as a cheetah, she works her way up to almost being a goddess, and she
Mhm.
decides, I don't want this. This is
Mhm.
artificial. This is fake. I'm going to return back to being a cheetah.
Yeah. Interesting.
She's going down to the Stardust. She's gonna be in the show.
Right? If someone gets in your way, step on them. It's not fair.
It's not about fair. It's about power. You're a stripper, don't you get it?
I'm a dancer.
I think she's discovered that this is a space of artifice.
Yeah,
I
which
mean,
yeah, that's a great point.
and
Yeah.
and this is what she doesn't want. She did this sort of like it's not like it's not her claws, right? And that
She's
she
been
chooses.
declawed.
She chooses to go back to kind of like being an animal and
Yeah.
the hitchhiking and I mean I think we could read this as like she's on to the next place, right? That
Yeah.
this is sort of stop on her journey. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the other things the film could be riffing on is Wizard of Oz. Right, and so Dorothy arrives, and there's the evil witch, right, that she has to defeat, and the sort of director has this sort of phony, wizard.
Right. You're so right.
Um,
Yeah, that's a good analogy too. Yeah.
mhm.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah, speaking of,
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance. Let's talk about Kyle MacLachlan really quick. What a cutie. All right, so he was our third lead.
Yeah.
Funny time in his life. A year before this, he was in the Flintstones. So
That's
two very
right.
different movies,
Yeah.
family and this having crazy sex in the pool. I mean, like what? He's such a babe. And I don't know, am I lame? I kind of like the swoop he's sporting in the movie. I don't know, it works for me.
It's funny, he doesn't do anything for me. That's so interesting.
Oh, really? He doesn't?
Yeah.
Oh man. Wow. Holy cow. A couple years later on Sex and the City, it was like, wow. All sweaty playing tennis.
I think because he's coded as so artificial, and the swimming pool scene is like he has a forest of fake trees. I just find him like laughable in his like construction of like, I don't know, vain wealth display.
Yes.
But and I find I don't know. How do you feel watching the sex scene? It was interesting.
Oh my god! Well, I had seen
with my students.
Oh my god, Andy! Oh my god!
We were,
How old?
we were laughing so
what
hard.
year are your students? Are they like
it's a range, freshman to
senior?
junior?
Junior? Yeah. Okay, wow, okay.
Well, this is an upper class, so I probably had more.
Okay, that must have been so loud. Yeah, I had seen clips of that for sure, but what in the world? Like, also going back to The Exorcist, because I've talked about that movie on the show. I thought of young Linda Blair hurting her back in bed. I'm like, Elizabeth Berkley's back cannot be comfortable doing this. Like, it was crazy. It was crazy. Like. And it's just so funny because a couple years after that, we got a hot, crazy, sex scene in the pool in Wild Things. But I mean, at least that was a bit more grounded, This was just so. Oh, and speaking of, I just realized they both of those crazy, sleazy movies feature champagne on the boobies. Well, there we go. But no, that scene was wild. I knew it was coming. I don't know. You know what was actually more wild, Andy, is I had never seen her lap dance. When Gina Gershon, says, I want you to, give him a dance. Whoa. And again, goes so crazy, but I don't know. I would have loved to have a camera on my face. I should have been recording myself watching. Like my jaw was dropped. Like that was obviously very sexual, but I even was kind of like, whoa, we are going for it. Like just, this movie is wild. What did you think when you first saw it?
Good question.
And were you in the theater or did you wait for home?
I probably waited for home is my feeling. I just remember people making fun of it.
Yeah.
Maybe I did go to the theater on this one. It feels like something I would have done.
I would love to go. Like next time it plays on the big screen, I have to go. Next time you have it at one of your Rainbow Cult events, I'm flying and I'm going because I need to see this now because I was alone. So I need to see this with people on the big screen to just process it more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When we did this as like an immersive screening, we had a nail station for everyone, so everyone had their claws. I'm curious what you think about like how Verhoeven uses lesbianism in his films, because we have Basic Instinct, we have Benedicta, the lesbian
I haven't
nun.
seen that. Yes, but I heard about it. Of course.
There's a preoccupation that he has, and I'm not sure it's all about desire. I think he is very interested in pursuing like toxic female bonds, and often that gets overlaid with sexual desire.
Yeah.
I know. How would you characterize the relationship of Chris and Nomi, I suppose?
God. Well, see, it's all over the place because sometimes Crystal wants, for whatever reason, even though she doesn't like Nomi, she wants to give her gifts. She wants to give her work, jobs, auditions. It's weird because then as Nomi is rising because of Crystal's help, right? As Nomi's rising, then Crystal doesn't seem to like that and then wants to give her the jobs that are bad, like the boat show with the sleazy guys, right? So it's this very strange, you hit it on the head because it's like there's this attraction, this sexual intensity between the two of them.
Yeah.
But Verhoeven's kind of like, and I don't know if he feels this way with gay eroticism, but at least with lesbian interaction, it's like, I want you, but I also want to hurt you. It's like this, like, not that he's homophobic, but like, it's just this interesting way to have same-sex sexuality and eroticism, but then it so quickly then becomes truly violent or just angry. Like, so I don't know what he's getting at there, where it's just, is for him, does he view, you know what? Maybe you agree. Is he thinking, wow, if I was a gay man, I would just be so competitive with my lover because I want to look like that and I want to be that sexy and you can't. So is it like an immediate and innate like competition with sexuality, right? I don't know.
There's an interesting moment in Basic Instinct that gets doubled here, where she's like, "I want you to give him a lap dance, and I'm gonna watch," right? And so she places herself in like the typical male spectator watching two women kind of, and then we also get that in Basic Instinct where Roxy watches from the closet as Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone have sex. And so there's this really great reading of Basic Instinct by Camille Paglia, who is slightly crazy, but she finds some interesting stuff sometimes. But she says in Basic Instinct, we look at like Michael Keaton's or Michael Douglas's like low tops, like his breasts are on display all the time, and he's the lesbian in that movie. And and Catherine Tremell and Roxy are the straight couple who are watching for kinks. And so I think he loves to invert typical voyeurism relationships. He loves to make films like Basic Instinct where Catherine Tremell controls the interview room because she's made herself into a spectacle. And that's very counter to how we typically talk about the male gaze, right? That like looking at someone confers control. But his films, again and again, saying like making yourself into a spectacle and making them look at you is a form of control as well.
From the creators of Basic Instinct, the last time they took you to the edge. This time, they're taking you all the way.
You can feel Crystal's control in that lap dance scene and really throughout the whole movie. I mean, when they go out to lunch, I mean, Gina Gershon is very good at that sexy stare, but it's that whole, it's like what I really was thinking of was, I think then Janelle Monáe even used this in a song, but that whole line that has been in different things where it's like, everything's about sex except sex, which is about power, right? So I thought that really, this is that, you know, that's everything in Vegas, you know, all these sexy bodies, both male and female, but especially female, right? Everything's about sex. But then when you're actually really having these intimate moments, whether they're like touching each other or not, but you know, once you're really looking at each other, then it's more of a power thing. Because then even the pool sex scene, it's sex, but then it's kind of like, is that Kyle MacLachlan's power over her, right?
Right.
So,
well, I think that you're right. Like, I think that this is like part of the lesson in womanship is that the tease is when you have power. Once you give them sex, you give up your power.
You give up your power, absolutely. And Nomi kind of knows that because for a while in the first like half or first act of the film, like she's like, no, like go at, like she doesn't really want to give things to Crystal because she's smart. She knows then you'll have those things of mine, right?
Yeah, but think about just how like burlesque as a form is so different than say like drag, right? Drag is tip supported. You are in the people grabbing money. Burlesque is like look, don't touch, right? Especially the goddess, right? Is the ultimate look, don't touch. And so this idea is like you have the power when they lust after you and they want you. But you know,
it's like, honestly, it's like anything. It's like when you're, I mean, like on the apps or like sending dick pics or whatever, like, you know, you're kind of like, there's kind of more power or like it's sort of sexier if you're withholding stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, and then there's, gosh, if you want to talk about the apps, there's so much vulnerability and sharing, and it's really sad. I think with gay male culture, is like the face is the last thing that gay men share.
Talk about mean and brutal and harsh. But yeah, exactly, right? Like that's the last thing because it's like, well, what's for sale? You know, give me the show. So yeah, and then once you give it, It's like, all right, well, yeah, I saw it. Goodbye. Like
Right.
same
That's the
kind
real
of culture
vulnerability,
here.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, yeah, absolutely. This idea of like sex as power, looking as power, but not in the traditional way, being looked at as power in this film. And one of my favorite films ever is Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Same lesson in that film. That being looked at is when you have your power. And that when Marilyn Monroe sings Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, she tells this little group of like girls, right? It's a tutelage song where she says like, sell when your market value is the highest.
Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah.
Think of your body as a commodity and get the diamonds because those are sort of permanent. Your body will change, right? But the diamonds never do.
Yep.
And
Totally.
they even in that song, they sort of like correlate the woman's body with a diamond, right? It's a raw material, and then it gets cut into the perfect shape, much like
Yes.
Marilyn Monroe's body was cut into, the shape.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting seeing all the DNA in this film because it's a unique film, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's its
Totally.
own thing, but I do enjoy seeing the DNA from previous films and classics in this. So I think that's maybe why it is still talked about, is not only because it's campy and it's almost like at the levels of like The Room, that film The Room, of like quotable, what the hell is this?
Yeah,
But
which is also a
because
film I taught, in my
oh, I'm
cinema class.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But yeah,
Oh.
no, sorry, keep going about the quotability.
No, but because it's talked about because it's just so odd and bad, quote unquote, but also because it is sort of like a nod and an ode to these classic films. So it's mashing them all up in this intentionally question mark like trashy version of those classics, which
Right.
in that way is artistic.
I want to see you dance, and I want to see you smile. I can't use you if you can't smile. I can't use you if you can't show. I can't use you if you can't sell.
I find myself speechless with this movie because I want to see it again, but I also don't. I love it, but I also understand why it's like, ugh, like you feel dirty. Like
Right.
with Wild Things, you feel dirty, but I love that movie. Like it's such a great twisty. I mean, like it's thrilling. This movie, I felt dirty, and I guess I was kind of sad at the end because it's just like, oh God, we went through that just to leave, just to now, right? So you gotta
But
have to
that
like
but
take a
but but
shower.
that is the maiden voyage, right? Like
Yeah.
how the girls' coming of age narrative and folklore is different than the boys is usually the boys
Mm.
go forth, conquer the dragon, take its gold, institute yourself as king, right? It's
Right.
colonialism in miniature.
Yeah.
Girls, we tell them, go forth, go to Wonderland, go to Oz, go to Neverland, but it was all just a dream. Get it out of your system.
You're so right. Yeah, you'll learn something and then, all right, come
Yeah.
back and cook me dinner,
Right.
right?
But I think to your point, it is not clear that she's going back home. We get her returning to who she was, and I think that's the big thing about giving my bag, right? Like,
Yes.
I go back to the part of me that I
bag.
lost,
Yeah.
but I've gained that knowledge. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the next
That's
stage.
interesting. I didn't think about that too. You're right. The missing bag and how she still wants the bag. That is actually pretty great writing. That we not only, I mean, it's funny that we see the guy and now we know like, oh, you're getting it this time. But it's more about the suitcase. It's like, bring me back completely who I am. Yeah. And I guess, yeah, I was just like, oh yeah, I guess is she leaving or is she just kind of taking a break for a day and like gets her suitcase and now she can be more of herself there? Yeah. I don't know. Something about the ending, I just kind of felt like I think I need more time to honestly let it like marinate, which is also just a bigger thing about like film criticism. Like sometimes you just can't write the review the day you see the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
But I think costuming too tells us she's putting the cowboy hat
that's
on,
true.
right?
She's dressed like she was in the beginning.
She's leaving the corrupt town.
Yeah.
You know?
She's kind of becoming, you're right. She's kind of covering herself back up into her armor, of the real world. Cause here the uniform is barely anything. Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we think of like the spaghetti western, which is kind of like the European version of the samurai film, the Ronin film, it's like the conflict is you're going to go into this town, and the question is this town even worth saving?
Right.
And I think Showgirl says it's not, and the best thing I can do is leave it.
Yeah. Yeah. And with Showgirls, it's maybe it's not, is this town worth saving? It's more like, is this town worth it for me to like save myself kind of thing, right? It's the same question, just flipped a little bit.
But like the cowboy says, can I integrate into this town that I've, and usually not. They have to ride off into the sunset.
Yeah. I don't know. The more we're talking about it, I do like it. It's just so bonkers.
I could fall in love with you.
The desire is intense,
You can't touch me, but I can touch you. I'd really love to touch you.
and the show is about to begin.
Something I just want to shout out that I do love, although again, with the casting, it's just a little tricky for another Black character to be this way. But I do love the B story, C story, sub story of the two other dancers really fighting, next to Nomi and like how that leads to major changes and violence, with dropping the diamonds, the jewels, whatever they are. Oh my God. And Nomi sees it. My jaw was dropped, Andy. I was, I didn't know that. I mean, I'm not surprised that that happened. I figured something like that was going to happen, but I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and then how Nomi and the one woman, the mother, right? Then they kind of become very similar where it's like our little secret, like tough break, right? And that's when Molly can see like, oh, Nomi, you've gone too far, like, oh, you're deep in this and it's not worth it, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because this film is playing on All About Eve, but All About Eve centers us with Margot Channing. So if this was a true adaptation, we'd be centered around Crystal's character, but we're not. We're centered around Eve Harrington. And Eve Harrington gets revealed to be this sort of Machiavellian monster, and the film's kind of like, well, that's Hollywood, baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so this film, I think, insulates. She's not the one who commits the act. She is complicit, let's say, and like covering it up. But then she gets this sort of moment of like Crystal acknowledging her, where she's just like, job well done, you know what I mean? Guess you did it. So in that way, very different movie than and for me it really goes back to this like Trials of Hera, Artemis and the Trials of Hera.
That is really so interesting. I love that connection. And then then we have the classic, Nomi does push Crystal down. Maybe she was inspired by the girls next to her, right? Down the stairs, such an iconic,
Absolutely.
stereotypical in a way, move for dancers to do, right? And then now she's the star, she's the gamble, as the guys say, but
they could have gotten LaToya Jackson though. Could have gotten anybody. Paula Abdul,
Paula
LaToya Jackson.
Yeah, but it's just, it really, I mean, all the dancing, the spectacle of the show, that they're doing is phenomenal. I mean, the work involved with those sets and the choreography, like it really is Showgirls is a true feast for your eyes. It might not be a feast for your brain, but wow,
it's a feast for my brain.
Yeah.
I love picking it apart. But I think like Susan Sontag's classic definition of unintentional camp is strained seriousness, but I think this is intentional camp. I think it's exactly what he's doing. The Vegas numbers are so flashy but so hollow, right? And it's really just like the play of surfaces. It's play with fetish wear. It's just play of surfaces. You know what I mean? There's no there.
Right. Yeah. You're right. It does feel hollow. It feels just like, this is, what, when we watch those dancing scenes on stage, it does kind of feel like, this is the 2:00 show. Then there's going to be a 4:00 show. And then, you know what I mean? It feels like, even though it's so, well made, well shot, like, fun to see, it feels very much like, and maybe that's also the good acting of like those supporting characters. Like I love Gay, the sort of dance captain, the stage manager, all that crazy chaos. So it really is a wild movie. I'm so glad I finally have seen it. You'd think I would have been obsessed with it years ago, but I don't know. Maybe I was scared to watch it. I don't know. I was just kind of like,
So. If you ever get a chance, the normally we have like a director's commentary, right, on DVDs. I believe the reissue DVD of Showgirls in the box set with the titty tassels, it has a commentary track by Charles Nelson Bush, who did like Lesbian Vampires of Sodom.
Oh yes, I love Charles Bush. Psycho Beach Party.
Psycho Beach Party. Yeah. Yep. So he has a
commentary. Oh wow,
it's hilarious.
I have to hear that. I love him. I was in Psycho Beach Party years ago. What a fun show and fun movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So imagine getting his take on Showgirls.
Oh yes. Oh my God. Wow. Yeah, ignore me. Just go right to you and him. Oh my God, yes. Wow, amazing. I got to hear one of your most favorite moments from the movie.
God, I might butcher the line a little bit, but
That's
it's
fine.
something to the effect of that's really different when there's not cum on your face. Like that line, I think is just so foul that I bust out laughing.
It's
It's
so
the
foul. You're
worst.
right. The guys are awful. All these men in charge. Oh my God. And the guy that wants to ice her nipples. It's just like, and he, another line that's so foul. That one guy, it's a different guy than the guy that just said your line. He says something like, I'm erect. You need to be erect. It's like,
That's right. That's right.
oh my
Yeah.
God.
But I mean, I do love this moment too.
Thrust it. Oh yeah. I love all the intense dancing. Like that is just okay. We are watching a movie, and Berkeley is doing everything possible. Whether that's bad or good is up to you, but she is committed. So she gave her all. She gives her all in every scene. So is that not performance, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I really think she should have claimed it.
Yeah. Just owned it and
live
be
and
like,
learn.
yeah.
I get it.
Right?
It's the Faye Dunaway of it all, right? Or she like they can't accept the fact that this thing that they took so seriously is funny to people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it also with any film, you make it, but then once it's done, it's not really
yours
for you
anymore.
anymore, right? It's
Absolutely.
for someone else, and now it's gonna so you kind of have to be flexible, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I just have to shout out that in the beginning with Molly, when she meets Molly and like, so where are you from?
Where are you from? Different places.
She throws the fries, different places. And I'm just like, Molly, get up and go.
That's her color.
Oh my God, different places.
Of different places.
Oh my God, brilliant. Those fries, I'm just
I
like,
always want to quote that whenever I have fries.
Different places. But please don't throw your fries everywhere.
No.
Yeah, I'm like, Molly, you don't have your wallet, we assume. Molly just bought you food and now it's all over the ground.
Right.
Molly be like, okay, goodbye. Don't ever talk to me ever again.
Yeah.
No.
You in danger by Molly.
Yes. Yeah, seriously. Oh, Andy, this is so amazing. Thank you so much for all of your amazing thoughts, your time.
I think these are great camp classics. I'm so happy to talk about this in this venue. And I think if anyone wants to follow on social media, and Andy Might is my Instagram, and rainbowcult.org is my company. We can find all of these little designs on there.
Oh my gosh. And it sounds like you'll be selling some of these designs in the future, right? Are they for sale now?
On the website now for apparel.
Good.
Yeah, so our website, rainbowcult.org. Yeah, you can buy them there.
Love it. I'll put that in the show notes too. I follow both accounts. Everything you're posting is so much fun. Seriously,
thanks,
I need to like make a plan because I actually haven't really. I've been to the airport for like a layover, but I actually really haven't been to Denver yet. So your next event, I think I'm gonna have to be there.
Sounds good.
I'll bring my tassels.
Yes.
You are a whore, darling. We all are. We take the cash, we cash the check, we show them what they want to see.
You are the show.
All the voguing and thrusting. Oh my. Thanks everybody for listening to or watching this episode, and a big thank you to my special, wonderful guest, Professor Andy Might. Such a smart, thoughtful, and fun guy. Can't wait to have him back in the future. Follow him if you aren't already on Instagram at Andy Might and at rainbowcult.org, and follow me while you're at it at Release Date Rewind to see more footage from this great conversation and from these great movies. And listeners, I noticed something pretty cool. Some of the movies we mentioned in this episode also have big anniversaries this month. All About Eve is celebrating 75 years, and Jade from the Showgirls screenwriter also turns 30. So he had those back to back. Busy boy in 1995. Tell your friends about this episode and leave a rating and a review or a thumbs up on whatever you're using to listen to this, because it really does help indie podcasts like this one. Thanks Straw Hut Media, the You Run Podcast Network, Kyle Motzinger, and Portland Media Center in Maine. And in the parting words of Crystal Connors,
Bye, darling. Bye, darling.